how hard did you push it till I black out? Yes. Numerous times, yes.
What's happening, Municipals? This is Ashton and not Big C, although Big C I think is pretty close to about as cold as my guest tonight, Mr. Brandon Lehman. For some context, Brandon has been on the podcast before. He did a delightful episode with Big, kind of about Central Oregon, I think it was, kind of a bend about y'all's trip there. But yeah, also our claim to fame is, me and Brandon played together at the Cookout last year. We were best ball partners, and I don't remember how we finished, but pretty much had that thing in hand. And I don't know, the Mustache Boys might need to run it back again next year. So I thought I'd have them on tonight to talk about some other things to start off. But Brandon and I both played Pasatiempo recently after the restoration opened, or renovation. We can actually have a discussion about what we should even be calling it. And I know a lot of you are probably out there being like, when should I play this? Should I wait? How do I handle this? We're not the end all be all, but I think we probably both have some opinions we wanted to share. But for now, Brandon, other than being cold, how you doing, my man?
I'm good. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Good. Well, good's a weird thing to say, but I appreciate you being here as well, especially after a busy work day. But before we dive into Pasa, Brandon, I wanted to kind of talk to you a little bit about two things. One, even though this is a Municipals podcast, we're big appreciators of No Laying Up. I heard the Portland chapter is opening up a new chapter in Portland, the Mutters, I believe, and I know you're going to be kind of a part of that. So you excited to kind of get some more events throughout the year, and true to your name, like you were just telling me before we pressed record about a February event where I think the name Mutters is going to be pretty apt. It sounds like, based off your current weather. That's 7 degrees you said outside.
Yeah, 7 degrees with some snow on the ground. Hopefully it'll be better up in Portland for that. But yeah, the athlete named Oregon Mutters starting off 2024. Looking forward to it. It's going to be really cool. It's a great group, and I think everybody's pretty spread out. There's a lot of people from Portland, but it's going to be really cool. Some people hosting, events close to home and stuff like that. It's some kind of hidden gem tracks. So looking forward to getting out with those guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's so nice to have those things. Just to kind of, I feel like those sort of regular events, it really kind of keeps your sword sharp, right? Because I think for all of us who, I think we all have, well, I've never actually asked you, but kind of, the bigger picture dreams around, qualifying for your state's mid-am or bigger stuff. But it is just really nice to go out there and be like, feels a little bit different, right? We're hitting cups where it kind of matters. People are going to kind of look at the scorecard and, what did Brandon shoot? Or what did he hit his quota? It's really fun. And obviously with Portland, what I've gathered a tremendous respect around since kind of getting to know Big and going up there with my girlfriend is y'all really have to deal with the conditions. I mean, across the board, right? I mean, I was there in the summertime and it was played Meriwether National and it was like 100 degrees. And then you got 7 degrees now. Like, we're super soft. Like, I'm playing golf tomorrow. It's, January 18th or 16th. It rained tonight, but it's going to be, 58 tomorrow. And, it's going to be a little wet, but no big deal, where you guys really have to deal with some conditions. So you guys, when you guys have these events, you can probably really tell who can play well and everything from 100 degrees to set. Well, you're probably not going to play in 7, but, 37. It's kind of crazy.
Possibly. Yeah. I mean, you see guys layered up. I think that the better players are frankly the better layers almost out there. Have the hot hands in pockets and stuff like that. And you just make the best of it. Everybody's playing in the same stuff, but there's definitely some people that cope a little bit better than others. I'm a Cali boy at heart, so I'm still definitely a little soft compared to a lot of the guys up here, but you make the most of it. It's fine. And frankly, I think, there's a lot of golf here that does get muddy. But there's a lot of stuff that drains pretty well as well. There's a lot of different soils and stuff like that. So kind of looking forward to Bar Run is a favorite. I talked about that with Big C, and it drains great. I think I'm gonna go play that in March. And that one kind of stands out as something that should be a little bit more comfy. We shouldn't be, putting boots on for that one.
Yeah. Since moving up to Oregon, do you have any like what is your go-to tip for somebody around like keeping warm? I mean, I think maybe dry too. I mean, I know that Oregon has the weird thing I've learned from my girlfriend that Oregon doesn't believe in umbrellas. I guess it's like a status thing that you don't have an umbrella, at least in Portland. But do you have any kind of tips for people to stay warm on colder days?
I don't know. I mean, it's very dry here, so rarely do we have to worry about it. We're kind of like high desert over here, so we get some snow during the winter. But it's generally dry, so I don't have to put up with like too much rain. Layering with that, I would say vests. I like never owned a vest before moving up here. Just like never understood why people owned them, let alone like more than one. And I'm a multiple vest owner now. So those and some hot hands, frankly. I kind of run a little chilly with my fingers personally, so a couple of those in the pockets and stuff like that, and you can kind of make the most out of it until it's like you have some psychos though that play like down into like low 30s and stuff like that. If it's under 40, not for me.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I think my dad actually said as a kid, you know, in the wintertime in Atlantic, it's in the 20s a little bit. But I think his thing was, he said, for golf to be fun, the number needs to start with a 5, which if we're being real about playing like good golf, like actually being able to golf your ball, he's probably right. So
yeah, it's a wise man. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Although, you know, if you get the right tee time, it's like, I'll find a way to make it work. Right.
For sure.
But also kind of new year. Do you have any golf goals? Like, you know, big stuff, small stuff, like I know that golf feels a long way away at this moment for you, but like, what are you working on or aspiring towards this year?
I've become like a certified microwave man lately in the last like few months, where like I'll pop off, you know, like 4 or 5 birdies in a round and follow them up with some doubles. Things are really exciting right now with the golf swing. So I think I'm cruising around like a low 5, mid 5. And I'm hoping to drag that down to somewhere closer to a 2. Over summer, we have a little like city championship. And I think some buddies of mine are going to play in that. So it'd kind of be nice to show up for that, for some bragging rights over the year. But that's kind of it, frankly. Just excited to play a lot of golf. Last year was really busy. Didn't get to play too much outside of some like dedicated golf trips, but looking forward to get out, walk a little bit more, and just play a lot of golf.
Yeah, I love it. And hopefully if the cards come right, you're on Team Burger, and Team Burger can go 3-0 after that absolute shellacking we put on the hot dogs last year.
Reach it.
I love it. No, I'm the same. I mean, I think for us, I was actually down in Slow with Hussey this weekend. He moved down there in December, and we played a few rounds. But one of the reasons, I mean, we could have done it over the phone, but over some non-alcoholic beers, we were looking at kind of some 4-ball stuff where we're going to try to, because with him living there now, it's a way for us to kind of actually see each other, to be like, cool, like, you know, we're going to meet, you know, somewhere and try to do some individual and kind of best ball mid-am stuff, which I'm not going to lie, like I've played in, you know, some of the no laying up stuff, like we said, it kind of gives you the tingles. But yeah, we're talking about doing, I think, 2 individual and 2 team. And like, I don't know, that's like 4 more serious golf rounds that I've played in a long time. So yeah, I'm kind of excited to throw myself into the cauldron, because similar one-liner from my dad, he's like, there's golf and then there's tournament golf, like true, like capital T tournament golf. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't have really positive associations. Like I remember like the state, well, I didn't even get to play in the state championship, but I remember like those qualifiers for high school stuff. Like I just was a total wreck. You know, you're in like science class, so like, oh my God, I got to go out there and, you know, post a score. And, but it'll be a good year of competition. But I'm with you. I'm just excited to, you know, I kind of think about we're lucky to be able to play golf. And for me, living where I live, it's like if I can come out to 52 rounds a year, meaning I averaged 1 round a week, that's a serious privilege, and, you know, something I hope to do again this year. We're off to a hot start. I think I'm at 6 or 7 already in January. So, or will be after this week. So yeah. Okay. But Pasa, Brandon, you have played I'm just going to give you the floor for a second. I'd love to hear. There's kind of I feel like there's a little bit of group think about Pasa. It's kind of hard not to. But forgetting like your recent experience, what has been kind of your feelings about Pasatiempo, feelings as a golf course, whatever, just kind of give some context into how you feel about Pasatiempo as a golf course.
Yeah. I mean, my first time there, I was on the range hitting a couple, and there was a group of guys. and they're all saying how excited they were to see it, that like everybody they talk to say it's their favorite course. I think it has a lot of, very, very high praise that I think it's very, very deserving of. I think people sometimes talk it up into something that it might not be. I don't think it's necessarily, you don't have the views that you get at a lot of other courses that kind of pop up into people's mind as far as like general tourist destination golf. At the same time, I think you see a true taste of the golden age of architecture, frankly, a lot of routing, kind of, intricacies and stuff like that. And it kind of, it's not your just run of the mill golf course that you're going to go out and look at the ocean and take pictures and stuff like that. It's definitely not easy. I think a lot of people sometimes also think that it's a little bit easier than it might be Parkland. But it's definitely got some teeth. I think it surprises almost everybody that plays it in one way or another, whether it's in a good way or a bad way. But I think far more often it's in a good way.
Yeah. I also like very much, like, it's going to sound weird to say this, but I appreciate that take. Not that it's a take. I think that with Pasa, and I've done this as well. I mean, I have a gigantic poster I'm looking at right now of all of Pasatiempo's greens. I mean, it's a place that I think gets just like an unbelievable amount of praise. But I think that you're right. I mean, I think that the reason why I think it really stands out to me, obviously, is it's just really, really special to be able to play an Alistair McKenzie that's in the shape it's supposed to be in, right? I think that we have good vibes around this podcast, but the only time we've ever received hate is too strong, but a block I'm going to die on is Sharp Park. I can't do it. I don't want to play it. I don't want to talk about it. It's just because I think what's so hard is it's like if I take the Mona Lisa and I just take a chainsaw to it and just reconfigure it and go, it's the Mona Lisa. It's like, I mean, it's fucking not the Mona Lisa. Like, don't call it that, right? It's not what it's supposed to be. But to be able to go out there and see a McKenzie and actually like, to play like number 11, right? And it's like this glowing brain shit where it's like, I play a lot of golf. I see a lot of golf courses. I don't see things like this. It's really cool. But I agree with you. I mean, I think that's the hard part is, we played there recently, and this isn't really about whether you should go or not, but there's moments where it's like kind of subdivision golf a little bit, right? You're like, it's like we all hate houses on a course, but like there's a lot of houses on Pasatiempo, right? There's a lot of out of bounds, like places you can't hit it. Like it's not perfect. And to your point, like it's maybe one of the best, opening tee shots. Maybe it's not like one at Sheep Ranch. You can like barely see the water. You kind of send it out there, and but yeah, I mean, I know what you mean. It's like it's weird because like in some ways it's very subtle, but then of course with the greens and some of the undulations, it's not subtle at all. But I know what you mean. I mean, I think it's interesting to hear you say that, just because I think that again, a lot of what people, at least even on this podcast, it's a lot of like almost like worship of Pasatiempo. But I do think that it's interesting that it's a good point that like it's great. But like to your point, it's a Parkland golf course with no views, with a lot of houses, right? But I guess it shows the magic of McKenzie, not just the architect, but what he actually is able to do. The fact that people still feel that way about when it's got, if I say, hey, Parkland golf course, not really any views, subdivision, houses all over the place, you'd be like, I'm missing what you feel so strongly about this, right?
For sure. And I played with a member out there my first 2 times playing it. And he was very, very thoughtful of kind of pointing out things. So I think I kind of got an appreciation for a lot of what you see. But the golf course is still very visually exciting, if that's the right way to put it.
Totally.
There's some bunkers that just are purely aim point bunkers for other holes that lie on other holes, and bunkers that are completely hidden depending on what side of the fairway you're on. You're looking back and you see nothing there. I think that it's got a lot going on. I think the greens are absolute masterpieces. I think they're very, very fun to play on. I know some people that think that they're very intense and kind of think that it takes away. But frankly, I think that if you're at Paso, you're there for the greens. in my mind. But I think it's very entertaining tee to green. I think just some people make it up to be some, unbelievable track. And I think that it has absolutely unbelievable shot value and some absolutely awesome shots. But I think that your experience tee to green, if you're just walking along and not really paying attention, or if you're taking a cart and just buzzing around, maybe you don't appreciate some of the subtleties that are there.
Yeah, I remember that happened to me the second time we played. You talk about the bunkers for other holes. To me, it's the bunker on when you're on 6T, the par 3, and you're looking through to number 7, and there's the bunker that's like not even remotely in play on number 7 that looks like it's there, but it's like, literally on the tee shot of the par 5. I remember I put 2 and 2 together. I literally did a double take and looked back and I was like, oh my God, right? Like, holy cow. But it's also cool. I mean, I think one of the things that actually is really cool is, to your point, even though there's a lot of houses, there's some houses where I feel like I actually, and again, this might just be because it's Pasatiempo and Alistair McKenzie, but the house on number 4, for example, I feel like I'm on Cape Cod, that house actually kind of seems to work there, I actually feel like that house sort of makes the hole feel a little bit more majestic. I actually wonder how that hole would feel without the house. And again, hand up, maybe I'm saying that because it's a McKenzie, because I feel like if it's just running the middle track, I'm not being like, this house really frames this hole in a nice way. But that little stretch right there where it's like that house kind of makes sense on 4, and then you turn to 5. Oh no, it's 5T, and then you're looking to 6.
Yes.
Par 5. Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, I think when I played there the first time with Big, he took a cart, and I was like, buddy, I know you don't walk, but probably a time to, I know go nice and slow, but I feel like to really get this place, you got to kind of huff and puff your way up some of those hills and really kind of feel it, right? That walk up 11, I feel like you're going to die when you get to the green and you get to tee off on 12, but it feels earned, right? When you get to that green, such an amazing hole, but it kind of feels earned when you get up there, the highest point of the property.
Yeah, and I think you almost you soak it in a little bit more, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? You might take a couple deep breaths and just kind of look around a little bit. I think that's, a lot of people talk about how holes let's just say, they go on a trip to Bandon Dunes or something like that. And they say that, all these holes stuck in my mind, like no other. And I think a lot of that comes down to walking the golf course and giving yourself a chance to look around. You're not looking down. You're not checking messages when you get back to your cart, that sort of thing. I think there's a level of appreciation, and kind of like you said with the houses, to definitely clarify and not, let it catch any strays. It's subdivision golf, but the neighborhood has quirk. It's not like you're playing in a bunch of stucco houses or something like that. Yeah. And even Alistair's old house, is on 7, I think, or something like that.
Par 5. Yeah.
I'm not, yeah. 6. Yeah.
6. Yeah. I got my numbers right earlier. Yeah. 6.
Yes. But very, very cool. And again, something that when you're walking, just another thing that you kind of look at and stuff like that. And another kind of thing that you soak in, frankly, with 6T, once you kind of, get up into the landing area and stuff like that, it's kind of tame until you get back there. So some of them talk about how you're just kind of strolling down, an otherwise somewhat bland little, section of walk. And I think that's kind of what it does. It kind of sucks you in. I think every single hole has one spot where you're at and you realize kind of what grounds you're on at that point.
Yeah, totally. No, and you're right. To be clear, we both like Pas a lot. I just thought it was an interesting way that you framed it. Because to your point, I think the big thing that's hard to articulate, but I think if you played there a couple of times, you feel, is the place just has a ton of character. And even, like you said, even the houses, you feel like there's character, right? The whole thing feels like there's character there. I'd be curious to know how some things would look a little bit different without some of the houses, but it doesn't really bother you, in a weird way. It just doesn't offend you in some ways, with other places where it's what is happening, But I'm curious, what were your thoughts initially when you heard? Actually, do you remember it? Technically, is it it's restoration? It's restoring the greens back to USGA regulations. Is that the actual terminology?
I think so. So I think that they essentially, if you look at, I think somebody told me that if you pull up the pop up on their website when you pull it up, says the front 9 now restored to, the original McKenzie greens, essentially. battling a lot of sand buildup and stuff over the years. So I think they dub it as a restoration. I mean, it definitely feels that way. I don't feel like anything necessarily feels like it got added, to the greens, to the course in general. I feel like some things are definitely different, but at the same time, courses mature over, 100 years or so, and that's kind of what they're going off of. I feel like the best way that it's been described is that the big slopes got kind of smoothed out, and the little slopes kind of got more pronounced or kind of brought back essentially into the limelight with a lot of the work that they did. So I think they call it a restoration. I think that's fair to them. I think they just essentially had to get rid of the old style like mud greens. Essentially, that place had some like really serious drainage issues. And I think, since they were building them up to like USGA spec, essentially they thought might as well kind of restore them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always hard these days. Restoration, renovation, restivation, like how to even talk about it. Well, when they came out with that, I mean, I kind of remember when I saw like the tweet, and I was kind of like, I remember being like taken aback. What were your thoughts when you saw they were going to kind of adjust it, mess with it, whatever terminology you want to use? What did you feel, or what did you think?
I mean, to be fair, the first thing I think I like told my wife, like, I need to get back down there and play it before, just kind of like refresh the effort. Thanks. Like, frankly, I was really hyped when I saw that Urbina was doing the work. I'm a big fan of his. I think that he does a great job with a lot of greens that he does, and knowing that it was a greens project, first and foremost, I think that they chose the right guy to do it, the right guy to, pull it off essentially. So I had a lot of faith on that side. I was very excited when I heard that they were going to bent. The greens have always been, I think, fine. I've played it 4 times. So, I'm not a professional on their conditioning and stuff like that, but POA always, I take a bent green over a POA green. Like, I think it's just as simple as that. So I was really excited to hear that they were going that direction. And yeah, I'd say it was kind of 50-50. I wanted to see it again. I was kind of shocked that it was happening, but at the same time, I feel like they definitely got their ducks in a row before moving forward with the plan. I think they chose the right guy, and I think the results kind of speak for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's 100%. Like, my first question was, well, I was definitely like taken aback, and then I said, because I think I just saw the tweet, it didn't say like Jim Urbina yet, but I said it all depends on who does it. And then when I saw it was Jim Urbina, it's like, it's hard to imagine him doing this wrong. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know, like, some of the, even having just played it, I wasn't aware, like, I didn't realize they changed the grass. But yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Like, we talk, like, all the time. I mean, I like Poana fine, but man, you play Poana around dark, just balls bouncing all over the place. And it's weird because for me, coming from the South, when I was a kid, a lot of nice courses, like the course I've talked about before, Cusquilla, the 1997 Core Crenshaw design that I kind of spent a lot of time on as a kid, that, God, I wish I could have what I know now and go back. They started off as bent grass, and then just summers in Georgia. I mean, I remember playing there. You have to water the shit out of it, and you'd have just gigantic ball marks, and just kind of have to drench the greens to keep them alive. And like every other course now, Champions Bermuda. That's kind of what's taken over the South because of the temperature. But yeah, I mean, right now when it's basically it's like 55 year round essentially, and Possum, yeah, it gets a little warmer. But why would you not go to something that, I mean, bent just kind of, like, if the weather can hold it. I mean, God, when bent greens are good, there's nothing better. It's just climate wise, there's not a lot of places that can do it. So that makes me, I didn't know that till you just said that, but that makes me feel, I don't know, more excited. But again, I guess that also begs the question, is that a renovation then? Because I don't know, that's a whole can of worms I can't even get into.
POA takes over so quickly that I think it's truly like, who knows what it originally was. Like, I personally don't. I'm sure somebody knows,
That's true.
But it probably became POA pretty quickly. And frankly, I think it would again. But again, this is like the little stuff that you pick up with members, is the reason they went that direction. I guess that there's a chemical that just got approved that will kill POA and apparently not kill bent. So they're planning on actually keeping the POA at bay, as everybody says that they, will try to. But maybe the timing kind of works out, and we'll see. I mean, again, if it goes back to POA, I'm fine with it. You know, again, I'm not that picky there. I'm a big sucker for twilight golf, so definitely, definitely kind of feel the brunt of POA there. But at the same time, it's going to be great. Those guys take such good care of that course and stuff like that. That I had no issue with it before. Playing the front with bent and playing POA on the back, not really much of a discernible difference at this point. And we'll just kind of see how it matures, how it grows in.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious now to kind of get into your experience, like this time post restoration.
Restoration. There we go.
What were your thoughts this time around?
I thought it was I definitely enjoyed it more. Just to throw it out there first. I really kind of thought that a lot of greens were shaped back to kind of what you would expect from some modern architects. You don't have some of the inflated banks, off of bunkers from sand buildup and stuff like that. They knock down a lot of them, and it kind of hits you in the face right away. On one, the back bunker, back right, it falls away into that bunker. Now we had a guy chip on, ran all the way through into the bunker, which is sick. You love to see it. And I think that, they incorporated that on 3. I think they did a good job of just shaving a lot of that, just kind of slopage that obviously wasn't there. It kind of restored, I guess, a lot of pinnable locations. Apparently on 3, they now have a back right pin, which ours was back left, and it looked like it was like off the edge of the planet, essentially. So I kind of can't wait to see what a back right looks like there. But a lot of that was due to them just essentially leveling it out, at that. So I think if you were to almost cut it at that, I think it's a win already. I think that the course plays a little bit more like it was supposed to, I guess, at that point, which I think is the point of the restoration project. But I think from there, again, the member brought out that big slopes are not as big, and there's a lot of subtlety that you never really had to pay attention to that's there. A lot of little waves. I mean, I don't know if it stands out to you, but 8 green when I got down to that was kind of terrifying. I counted 11 separate tiers essentially there. They kind of Mickey Mouse eared a back left pin where I think wedge is in play from a lot of areas on that green. It's pretty much just not accessible at all, with a lot of slopes working away. I think that it's just very interesting that, a couple of the holes that were a little bit more bland got a little bit more exciting. And I don't think that they did that for fuel, for that reason. I think that's frankly the way it was, or at least you take them at, their word. That's kind of how it was. But either way, I think it makes the golf a lot better. I think there's definitely some, still some really, really incredible. I think 2 green might be one of my favorite green sites I've ever played. The kicker kind of short. They almost built it up where it's back in the green. I guess that kind of fell out or was essentially flattened down a little bit. So now that kicker extends, whereas they were able to level out the lower left section. So now they can pin it all the way up to that kicker. I had just a full steam pitching wedge in, and it released maybe 16 feet down left, landed it right edge, ran right by it. It's hard to get a ball close to that front pin. So there's definitely some pins that I think there's going to be a little bit more carnage with. When they host the college tournaments and stuff, I definitely think it got a little spicier. And I think there's other that are just kind of a little bit more accessible and the members will be happy with, I don't know. Did any one green in particular kind of stand out to you as just different essentially?
I definitely noticed 8 as well. Big time. Yeah. I mean, I think my feelings are very similar. I think where I struggle with, to be clear, not struggle with what they did, but I think where I struggled was it's so hard because for the last year, you've been kind of seeing on Instagram and kind of hearing, right? And then we finally get the privilege of going out there in between this being done. But I think what's so hard is aesthetically, Pasa's beautiful anyway, but aesthetically, the first 9 holes look unfucking believable. Not for catnip, but, I took some videos and put them on our social and got a lot of response to how good, the bunkers, because basically what they did, it seems is everything from 20 yards, 25 yards, you could literally see the sod line and it was all basically everything was new from like 25 yards towards the green. And like that new area just like looks beautiful. Like the bunkers look sharper, like it just everything aesthetically looks better, just full stop. But the hard part is the gigantic caveat is like you have to remember that it's not grown in. Like, yes, you can play it. It is not grown in. Like the marshal actually warned us. He said, hey, as a reminder, like I would actually encourage you on 10 to hit a couple of putts before you if you're counting them up, because the front's rolling like an 8 and the back's rolling like a 13, right? So I think the big thing for people going now is just be mindful of like it's going to look insane. You're going to be so excited. There's not a reason not to be excited, but understand that like I think the best way to really enjoy your day at Pasa, kind of what I decided to do, is I just like, while it wasn't my turn, I wasn't really like walking around looking at my putt. I was just trying to like look around, to your point, and be like, yeah, I've only played it a couple times, but I was trying to just like take in the green. It's not like just look at it, like, because I'm trying to see what's happening. Because realistically, when the putts are rolling an 8 and they're kind of shaggy, you're not going to like have a putt that's like, oh yeah, like that stuck with me. Because the front 9, it was all like slow and not really breaking because it's not quite there yet. But to your point, you can see a lot of the differences if you're actually looking. It's just one of those weird things where like, there's sometimes where if you went up, like you and I went just out onto number 11 and just threw balls around, it's like, oh my God, like you would actually see the golf ball doing things, and that's the stimulus, where the front 9 right now is not really what the golf ball is doing as much. Because like it was one of those funny things, like your example on 2, same thing. I had a pitching wedge in, I hit it a little bit, like, the pin was like probably like front middle, but it's one of those funny things where I landed it and I actually told myself, I was like, 2 years from now, this putt is twice as long. Like I had 15 feet up the hill. I'm like, there is no way, even with a pitching wedge, mirror grooves and a Pro V1 golf ball, there is no way that ball lands in this spot and I have 12 feet up the hill for birdie. There's simply no way it lands on that downslope and ends up here. So I think that's where you have to go into with the right mindset right now, right? Like it's not a finished product. It's gorgeous. But like as far as like playing, it's just not quite ready, which is, again, no offense to the golf course, what they've done. Like, it's like if you have a torn tendon in your wrist from playing hockey, you don't get surgery and then be like, well, doc, like my wrist isn't moving the best. Like a week later, it's like, well, you got to let it get better and then it'll get better, right? So, but yeah, I think for me it was the kicker on 2, it was the green on 8, and then again, I know it's just like everyone's gonna say it, but like 3, like standing on 3T, like it's always been amazing. Like I just kind of stood there and started laughing. Like it just like looks even scarier. Like it looks even scarier because the bunkers are crisper, they're cleaner. Like the bunkers just fucking pop. It's like, oh my God. And then I hit a pole right into the bunker, and I think I made triple, and I was like, well, there you go. Like I was even par and feeling myself, and number 3 just says, fuck you.
He's happening quick out there. For sure. Doubles always waiting for you. And I think like you said, the front 9 just kind of pops, I think is almost the way to put it. Like it just kind of radiates a little bit different. I think the back, like, you kind of hate to say it, but it almost looks scruffy in comparison.
It does, yeah.
It rolls a lot better. I mean, I think that the greens kind of same deal. When we played, I'd say they were both relatively slow, but the back was definitely quite notably faster. Like you have to completely almost resync up, on the back. And like you said, it's just not quite ready. I understand why they opened it up. I know the membership, really wanted it open to play again, and hence why they, didn't just do the whole project at once, essentially. The membership just didn't want it that way, and I think there is an argument of, is that better in the long run or not? I do think that the course gets limited enough play that it should hopefully grow in pretty nicely, and kind of go from there. But like you said, it's really hard to appreciate things when, the greens are kind of rolling at 8s and truly just at a fraction of their like true potential.
Yeah, but I really think what you said nails it, though, is I think that you immediately notice like on one, our pin. I'm kind of looking at the green right now on my board. The pin was sort of like front, middle, right, and I hit a chip that's kind of similar. And it wasn't just the grass. I had a chip that was good, but it was probably like 4 feet. And in my head, the hard part is like I'm like, huh. I'm like, the way that ball rolled, I'm like, I remember that slope being more aggressive. And I remember that being because where I landed it essentially was like right around the collar. And again, because of the collar issues, it would have rolled down. So the funny thing is like, I think like most people, even though the slopes are, a hole like 16 is always going to be kind of literally kind of over the top, or 16.
Mm-hmm.
I think what's good though is that like I noticed that they have removed kind of the goofy golf component because let's be real, there is a component of pasta that, especially not really for us, but when you watch those fucking college kids and the greens are rolling like 15, it's just like that's not really what golf is supposed to be, right? Like, I know I'm not supposed to admit this on our podcast, but our good friend Rick Haro, I played with him at Green Hills the first time I ever played there. The greens were rolling like 14 or 15. And I remember I hit a driver to 60 yards and ended up making either triple or quad because I putted off the green. And like some of the, like when you have those McKinsey courses, I think Andy Johnson talks about it. A lot of these McKinsey courses have to decide. And again, this is a stupid thing because what they should decide is do you keep the McKinsey or do you keep the speed? And the hard part is like the membership, the people want to bang their chest. These days we're in kind of this sickness of like speed, green speeds. But that's where actually I give Pasa a huge tip of the cap because like, you don't need a 10-footer that you got to play way up the slope because like that's not to their point. That's not actually how it was designed. Like, McKinsey had a specific idea, and we've seen this at Augusta, right, where there's stuff to do certain, there's times you have to putt in crazy ways, but we're playing a championship golf course. We're not playing putt. If you want to putt through the lion's mouth, go down to love putt, but that's all we're doing here, right? And so I think what I appreciated is I couldn't feel it like through my golf club and through my golf ball yet. But I think what I appreciated exactly what you said, that the tagline of this podcast is the big slopes are less severe. And I think what's exciting is I could see sometimes the subtleties, but I think like you wait till you get to like fall of 25, right? And it's going to be hard to articulate, but that 3-footer that before might have been straight, it's now half a cup. And I think you're really going to feel that once it's grown in a way that I think is going to be exciting and also like candidly more of a challenge for like most golfers, right? Like the subtleties are actually just going to make it harder than like, do I play 6 feet of break or 8 feet of break up on this hill? Like that's not really what the challenge is, right?
For sure. And I mean, I think that they also kind of distinguish like almost small shelves from slopes there. Mm-hmm. Like 8 comes to mind. That pin was back left, and one of the guys we were playing with was kind of front left, and he thought a slope was gonna just absolutely kind of boomerang it around, and he hits it up there, and it's just a flat shelf essentially. The slope runs out and it just levels out. And he's, finds another slope going the other way, and he's got another 20-footer essentially. Like things definitely get out of hand quickly over there, even with the greens rolling slow. I don't know what they normally run at, but I'd say like a 10 or so is probably plenty out there. Kind of like you said, I think that they were designed in an era when it wasn't that quick. So if you're going to keep them, you've got to kind of back down a little bit. But like you said, even with them slow, I think that, 3-footers, like there might be a handful of straight 3-footers out there, but not many of them. It makes you think about every single shot out there, even with it rolling halfway slow, I'd say. So it's really exciting, especially I'm a big stand for the back nine there. I mean, the front nine's great, and I think the front nine is visually awesome and has some awesome shot value, but the back nine is just kind of untouchable by everything. And I'm really excited to kind of see, like you said, 16, 11, kind of what those greens are going to look like. They're talking about kind of adding a little bit more of that punch bowl, shaving that punch bowl on 11 back left.
Oh shit! Sick.
Yeah, we'll see. I would love to see some of that kind of creativity come back. I think that when you look at, old pictures and stuff like that, there were, zero trees on the course and stuff like that. Like, I think it's really hard to realize kind of what maybe some of the intentions were back at that time and how playable really they would ramp it up to. But I don't know. I think firming it up a little bit and seeing some of those kind of playful contours in the surrounds, be a little bit more playable, which they're supposed to be firmer as well. You're supposed to be able to kind of play balls off of them instead of before it would just kind of absorb, everything, and you just end up, short-sighted everywhere you go. So I think making those a little bit more playable will just be kind of really exciting. I think the front nine's great talking about Pasa, but it's kind of, Pasa doesn't start until the kind of thing. Yeah.
No, totally. I mean, I think for me is like, it's weird. I actually have a very specific memory from the first time I played there that I think we're going to feel a lot more of. Like, I think this was the whole point of the restoration. I know it's not the best hole, but my personal favorite hole is 13, the par 5, just because I think that like the way the bunkers start, like 50 yards out, like it's just a minefield. Like when I played there with my buddy Aaron, he was like, it was his first time, and he was like, what number do I lay up to? And I was like, it's like you start going down that hill, the ball is going to kind of roll towards the bunkers. And I actually kind of totally psyched him out. Like, actually, I think I gave him actually bad advice, but he kind of joked. He's like, dude, it's okay. He's like, I can tell you've not some demons, but he's like, I can tell you've it's just, there's so much going on. But I remember the first time I played there, I laid up and I had gap wedge, and the pin was like middle of the green, and I hit a good gap wedge, and good grooves, good golf ball. And I remember it like hit right by the hole, and it like thudded, and it rolled, and it just kept rolling. And then if you remember that back bunker there it shaves directly into the back bunker. And I got up there and I was like, what in the world? Like, what? Like, I landed at the right number, the middle of the green, and a gap wedge rolls out to the back. But I think that like, that's also a commentary on, firmness, but that's not really what I'm saying. It's more of the way that the green was. And to your point, the fact that in that area, there was not that bump and there was not any of that stuff. It actually allowed the ball just to keep on rolling and kind of trickle that. I don't know where that will be, but as you said, there's like a good example is the back bunker on 1, right? There's going to be a lot of examples of times where balls keep rolling and find places that realistically they wouldn't have, because, before it was like kind of a bowl, and now it's going to be like that. And so I remember that shot so clearly, but I remember like being like, not upset, but I remember being like, you got to be fucking, I thought I had a birdie putt, and now I'm like working hard for bogey. But that's the beauty of Pasa. I was saying the subtleties. It's not a long course, right? The back tees are 64. It's not a course that's like, you're not, it's not about power. It's all approach shots. It's all approach game. It's all kind of being able to kind of understand the right spots, the right angles that come in from it. But I think hopefully what this restoration will really do is, and I think what it will do based off what we've seen, is allow for more of like, in that literally the second time I played there, I was like, whatever the number is, I'm going to hit a chippy 50 instead of a full 50. And I think there's going to like, you wait till you get to like, again, fall of 25, summer of 26, when that place is like really humming, it's going to be amazing. But I'm curious, Brandon, if you were the average person, whether you've played Pasatiempo or not, would you go play it again right now? Or would you just be like, you know what, I'm going to go see other places and I can't wait to get back out here when it's fully done? What would your steer be to kind of the average dues paying, golfer?
I don't know what rack, like self-proclaimed, I've gone for guess rate every single time, thankfully, which is $90. $90, I think, is a very different answer versus whatever rack rate is. I think it's over $350 currently.
If you include the booking fee, I think it's like $425.
Yeah, that would be frankly a tough sell. I think at this moment, I think that the work that they've done is incredible, but like you said, I don't think it, is at its true potential yet, or maybe even like that close to it at this moment to kind of spend that money. At the same time, and I think that the experience, kind of like you said, it's almost two different experiences, front nine, back nine. I think that you might want that kind of, fully enveloping type, of golf course kind of at that point. I will say though, again, that people spend that kind of money, if not, multiples of that, to go play some courses a little further south. And I think that if those guys are coming up and they're willing to go, blow that money, obviously money's, different to every single person, but I think it deserves to be in the talks, I mean, my dad's not a huge golfer or anything like that. And, he's in the camp of he'll never play pack again because the greens are like too turned up and stuff like that. Like he's definitely soft when it comes to a lot of greens. And he said like Pasatiempo's greens are works of art. Like even he can see that. That's like a true like layman type, golfer. So I think that point stands no matter kind of what they do to him, no matter what it is, whatever it is, I think that it's definitely an experience. And if you want to have that experience now, I don't think you're going to be disappointed. It just might not be quite what it will be in another, 16, 18 months.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, also same thing as you. I actually thought the guy I was playing with, shout out to Andrew Choi, I thought he was a member. He's not. He actually told us that he just found the tee time on Golf Now, which the fact that he could find that tee time. This was 3 days after they opened, and he found $175 tee time on Golf Now. Shout out to Andrew Choi for being resourceful. I felt the same way. I was like, for 175, it's a no-brainer. But I was like, I went into that being like, would be really curious to know how it feels if I was paying rack rate. Like, I think I would have been disappointed. Again, I'm not like, we're both pro. I just think it's like, they want, to your point, the members wanted it to open so they could see it and play it. Awesome. It's a private golf course. That's their prerogative. They have every right to do that. But if it's going to be these, few times a year or, a few times every couple of years, we're going to drop a ton of coin on a golf course, I just wait, right? Or a good thing to do, to your point about, you alluded to going south. If you're going down to Monterey to play some golf, go to Pasatiempo. They have an absolutely elite breakfast burrito. Go have a breakfast burrito and a Bloody Mary on the porch. When you drive in, you kind of see the bunkering on 3. You get to see a lot of it. Because actually, when I walked up, I thought about Tron at the Ocean Course. He said, I want to have a drink and go watch people hit the golf shots. I just only need to hit them myself. Kind of felt about Pasa, right? Like, I would have loved to just like go walk with you and like, grab the flag stick and have a beer. I don't need to play it because like it's not going to play the way that I want to have to pay for it. But if you can go walk it, again, you can't do that. But I'm saying if you can just like go in and have a breakfast burrito and a drink and just go see it and be like, I cannot wait to get out here in October of 25. I think that's the way to do it. Go buy some merch. It's a great, every time I go in there, I spend more money in the pro shop than I mean to. Because they finally got rid of the Cosmic Sands font, which was always kind of a tough scene. But yeah, no, I'm with you because that's the big thing is I walked off feeling like a little deflated, but I was like, am I being a loser? And that's kind of why I wanted to talk to you is like I'm both so excited for what it's going to be, but also just felt a little bit deflated. Again, the price makes it feel better, but I didn't walk off being like, oh my God. It's like, yeah, it just needs a couple of years, man. It's not ready.
You're getting the taste of it, essentially. Like, this is like the sampling. You're going to kind of get, an idea of it. I will say, like, I think the sneaky move, they're supposed to turn it up in time for the college tournament. And at that point, when they close it, I think they're going to double pin the front 9 and charge a reduced rate. I think that might be the move, frankly, is go play it at a reduced rate, see the front 9, enjoy the front 9. It should be rolling the speeds that they want it to be. And I think that, maybe there was a little bit more of a delta between, enjoyment of the front 9 and back 9 before. But I think that the front 9 is absolutely all world. I think that all of the best holes have done nothing but gotten better, essentially, with the restoration. So I think that, if you're telling me it's, $150 or $200 to go play the front 9 twice with double pins, like, it's frankly tempting because the pins change up. Everybody likes to like preach width and angles, and even though it's a Parkland course with not a ton of width there, the angles definitely just play. Again, like you said, you might fly a ball a different number depending on what you're kind of trying to do. Or, with some pins, you might fly at the exact same number and end up in the same spot. And that's kind of just the way it is, So I think seeing it with two different pins might be the move. I know a lot of people enjoyed that on the back last year. And I think that, frankly, if it's in better shape, obviously, which I think we're all expecting the front to be at that point by the time they transition back, maybe that's kind of the sleeper move. Just sneak out there and kind of just go see it a couple of times and kind of soak it in.
Yeah. Usually when a rookie comes up in September for a cup of coffee, he doesn't tear it apart. He kind of sees some pitching, league adjusts to him a little bit, sees a couple curveballs, and he comes up, adjusts, and mashes. And Pasatiempo will mash. It just needs to see a couple curveballs to kind of get a little seasoning on it, right?
For sure.
I'm thinking about pitchers and catchers reporting. I'm like projecting that into the universe. Brandon, any parting thoughts? I'm happy that we're aligned because, again, I didn't. The point of this podcast was not to come on and be like, I felt deflated. It was more of just like, I can see it, I could taste it. It's just not totally there yet. But again, who expected it, of course, when it opens within a month of, basically ripping apart everything from 30 yards and you'd be like, oh, it's humming, man. Like that's not the way it works.
For sure. I think if nothing else, for the people that haven't seen it, I think understand that it's great. They didn't, rip up essentially the Mona Lisa or graffiti the Mona Lisa or anything like that. I think they definitely enhanced it one way or another. I think, again, as every single golf course, I mean, people still talk about, Bandon with Sheep Ranch. I think Sheep Ranch has a lot of growing in to do, and it's getting marched on every single day essentially. And it's still an enjoyable lap for a lot of people, So I think if you go into it expecting, what you're going to get and be fair, I think that it's a great time. I think it's severely underrated by every single ranker and stuff out there. I think it's still, an incredible time. I think that it's worth seeing if you're in the area. Again, maybe spending $400 at this moment, it's not the move, but I don't know. Parting thoughts is, frankly, I'm just really stoked to see what they do at the back, because the back is already just like chef's kiss everywhere you go. Essentially, I think it's such every time I get out there, I take a bunch of pictures of the front and no pictures of the back. Essentially, you're just kind of like in a blur and just kind of soaking it in. And after seeing the front, I think I'm nothing but encouraged to kind of see what they're able to put together and have in store for us on the back nine.
Yeah, it's super true. I mean, again, have not played a lot of courses, but I would just put the back nine at Pasa up against just about anything. So yeah, well, let's do this. Let's make a promise to each other that sometime in 2025 or 2026, we'll make it down there together and we'll see it in all its glory. And then I sort of have a rule I played Pasa 4 times, and every time I've done a pod about it, 'cause it's one of those places, right? It's you go there and it's normally you're with, special people or there's some kind of special thing. So in 2025 or 2026, we'll go out there and we'll fire it back up and let people know that, we'll go ahead and tell you, it's going to be like, hi, Brandon, that was pretty good, right? Pretty good.
It's going to slap. It's going to slap. I'm 100% in. I'm excited for it. And yeah, it'd be a great walk.
Pasa slaps the Redux. That's what we'll call it.
100%. 100%.
Perfect. Well, thanks for coming on, buddy. I don't know that I'll see you before the cookout, but I'm excited to see you in warmer weather. Yeah, best of luck on your hockey game, and I hope you stay warm.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.
Peace.